Seeing no one else on the other side, I will go to Mrs. Blackburn from Tennessee for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the committee for allowing me to participate today. This is an issue. TSA and their participation and their conduct is something that is important to my constituents, and Mr. Lord and Mr. McLaughlin have both mentioned constituent satisfaction, customer satisfaction as a goal. I would just commend to you looking at the Economist magazine's online poll, which they have up right now. And the question they're asking is whether or not changes made to airport security since 9/11 have done more harm than good. And at last check, as I checked, it was 87% of the readers agree that changes at airport security have done more harm than good. So, gentlemen, I would contend that we are not doing our best at customer service, and I think Mr. Conley, my colleague from the other side of the aisle, spoke well to that. I want to talk with you a little bit about the VIPR teams, because on October 20th, 2011, my home state of Tennessee became the first state in the country to deploy VIPR teams simultaneously at 5 way stations and 2 bus stations. The teams included your TSOs, BDOs, explosive detection, K-9 teams. My office was informed by TSA that the point of operation was for TSA agents to recruit truck drivers into the First Observer Highway Security Program. The TSOs and the BDOs involved in the operation were only supposed to be handing out recruitment brochures, since neither position has actual federal law enforcement training. However, I've got a couple of posters here. You can see back here. If you look at these posters, I'll call that one Exhibit A. And if you were watching the video of this transaction, you would see that this individual, who is designated as a TSA employee, is walking around and inspecting the truck. So if they were supposed to be handing out brochures, what were they doing inspecting the truck, and what type training do the TSOs and the BDOs receive to detect abnormalities or potential threats in semi-trucks? Mr. McLaughlin?
Thank you. First, the exercise, or I should say the VIPR that you referenced in your state of Tennessee was, it's important to note, was a joint training exercise with 23 different agencies, both federal, state, and local, where TSA was invited to participate, and by all accounts, the 2 or 3 day exercise went off very well. It was an important opportunity for us to build relationships, to ensure that in the event of a real national security emergency, we have the types of relationships in place.
Sir, you're using my time, but I would just ask, what type training do they have to actually do these inspections and to detect the abnormalities that would be there on our nation's highways? Because they have no federal law enforcement training, correct?
During this exercise, the officers did not conduct any screening of any vehicles nor
okay, let
drivers.
me put up poster number 2. Then why did they ask to open the top of this, open this truck and look at this? Was there a specific threat to Tennessee highways on October 20th, 2011? And was there any intelligence suggesting that a suspected terrorist may be driving a semi-truck across Tennessee? And were there specific threats that were deterred by conducting this operation?
While I can't talk about threats that might have been deterred, I can tell you again that this was a training exercise, not an exercise based on active intelligence in the state.
Okay. Mr. Sadler, do you have anything to add to that?
No, ma'am.
You don't. Well, there again, I want to go back to this question. What kind of specific training do they have to be on the nation's highways conducting these kind of searches?
TSOs and BDOs do not receive specific training with regard to screening vehicles in the highway mode of transportation.
Okay.
The K-9 team that I believe that I see up there, although it's from a distance, appears to be a multimodal dog that is trained in that mode of transportation.
So even though our TSOs have no federal law enforcement training, you are pleased that they are participating in these type exercises?
Again, the VIPR program is set up to provide a visual deterrent and to work in conjunction with our state and local partners in all modes of transportation. And part of that, again, is to build the relationships in times of an exercise.
So these TSOs who have been administratively reclassified from being screeners and processors and given no federal law enforcement training are going to be out on our nation's highways and our seaports and participating in this type of activity.
I'm not sure I understood that as a question.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Based on the performance that you have seen with the VIPR teams and their ability to prevent specific terrorist threats, what kind of grade would you give them?
I think that our VIPR teams do a very good job in a mode of transportation where we have very limited resources. I think our VIPR teams, working in conjunction with state and local agencies, do a very good job of providing a visible deterrent to people that might be attempting to do something bad.
A to F, what kind of grade would you give them?
I don't know that I have the experience to say specifically. Based on the experience I do have, I would give them a grade in the range of a B+ to an A-, and that largely just based on the length of time that the program has been in place. It's a program that is only 5 years old in totality.
Okay, I would just remind you that your agency has agreed that performance measures need to be developed for the VIPR teams so that there can be some measured results and some quantifiable data, and we will follow that as we move forward. One last question that I would have for you. Have the VIPR teams ever pulled over cars, SUVs, or vans?
I'm not aware of a TSA asset on a VIPR team pulling over a car or van, but I can take that question for the record.
I would love to have that answer because, to my knowledge, there is no terrorist that has ever driven a semi-truck. And so we find it very curious, the method that was being employed with the VIPR teams and their presence. And you can go look at the Zazi example or the Shahzad example, and those were cars and SUVs. They were not semi-trucks. I yield back.